kind of liked what I've seen from him when it comes to moving the basketball. I think he moves the basketball pretty well. He struggled as a shooter, which was what he was kind of known for when we recruited him. But to me, like, he takes care of the basketball and he can move it relatively well. So if they had to use him at point guard for a little bit, I wouldn't be over as concerned as maybe some people would be.
Yeah, Playtech's just that scrappy little white guard that, Roy Williams likes to have.
He's literally Stillman White, just he's on scholarship.
Yeah.
There you go.
But he's gonna have to produce early on in the year.
Yeah.
At least it feels like that to me. A big storyline about this backcourt that I think we've touched on, but we haven't really gave a lot of thought to. And we talked on it a little bit a minute ago with Christian Kelling and Justin Pierce. These are guys that we are asking day one to produce. But they haven't produced against talent that they're going to have to play in the non-conference slate and then when we get into full-blown ACC play. And I think it's going to be, how much of an adjustment is it going to be for those guys? I heard Steve Kirshner say they kind of seemed a little shell-shocked in their scrimmage against Villanova. And is that worrisome?
Well,
because,
okay,
I mean,
it is Villanova. Let's just say that. This is a team that is very, very good. Jay Wright is a phenomenal head coach. And are they not – they're a more veteran team this year, right? Because they were very young last year. So don't be overly concerned. But there's reason to maybe go in with a little hesitation thinking, yeah, they're gonna go out and just light it up. I think you're right. I mean – look, you got to give them some credit. I mean, look, these were two guys that scored, what, if I'm remembering correctly, both were over 19 points a game last year. I mean, they know how to score the basketball. It's just, yeah, you mentioned it, the step up in competition. How do they adjust to that? And, I think that if one of them can at least emerge as your three-point threat, that would be huge for Carolina because that is what is right now really lacking on this team. You got a point guard that we know from just everything that we've heard can drive the ball inside and score. He's going to be able to occasionally knock down some outside shots. And then inside, you got Armando Bacot, who can score the ball close to the rim because of his size. And Garrison Brooks, who's started, he's got no choice but to become more of a factor on the offensive end. And we've seen at times when he's been effective. You've got to find that guy from the outside. One of them has to emerge as that guy. It's just who is it?
Yeah, I like Kelling's game a little bit more than I like Pearson's.
I agree.
From what I've seen and from what I've heard from people telling me, okay, well, this is what I've seen with their own eyes that I trust a little bit more than mine eyes. But they're both gonna. If Carolina's gonna achieve what they want to achieve, those are going to be guys that are going to have to. They're going to have to grow up. In front of our eyes, it's going to be funny because
they're graduate seniors have to grow up.
They're grad transfers, but they're going to have to grow up over the course of the season once they get adjusted to playing ACC talent on a nightly basis and playing at Gonzaga and playing Ohio State and playing the kind of teams we're going to play in non-conference. You mentioned B-Rob, and he's a senior, but he's going to have as much exposure as he's ever had. He carved out a role last year as a guy that came off the bench, was active defensively, would be able to knock down threes. That kind of feels like his role, but he's got to do a little bit more.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. He's got to kind of expand upon that role a little bit, become that sixth man. I mean, it kind of bounces back and forth between him and Leaky, but because Leaky is playing everywhere on the floor, there's going to be a lot of times where both of those guys will probably be on the floor at the same time. I mean, the thing about B-Rob is like, it's weird to say that, he's not going to have a huge role on this team because I still feel like people think that's kind of where he's at. There's a legit chance that if Kelling struggles, he could start at some point this season. So he's got to be ready to go. You can't just say, okay, I'm satisfied with what I did last year. Let me repeat what I did. He's going to have to grow, like you said. But the good thing is that we saw from him last year as the season went along, he started to knock down the outside shot effectively. He was a little more aggressive on the defensive end, which we wanted to see. And what did we talk about with this Carolina team here when we started? Defense is going to have to control this team. And they're going to have to find a guy that can knock down three-point shots. B-Rob might be the answer to those questions, especially off the bench. That's why I think, look, he's going to have no choice but to improve upon what he did last year. And the other thing is, not only do you have to do that, you're looked at as a veteran on this team. I get that there are two seniors that are ahead of you in terms of where many people are projecting the depth charts with Kelling and Pierce, but these are guys that are transfers. You and Garrison Brooks are the leaders on this team. You have to take over that role and be effective in it. And look, it may sound that I'm kind of ranting a little bit on B-Rob. I'm not at all. We asked him last year to show us some improvement. He did just that. I believe he can do that this year. It's just, that's what he's going to have to do if this Carolina team is going to be successful. And I think he can.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a big part of the second unit, which at times last year, and really in this program, one of the strengths of Carolina basketball is the depth of the program and the players that they have.
Yes.
And I was talking to Archansky was on with me earlier this week, and he said, I think that's one of the biggest questions about Carolina is they're used to going 9 or 10 deep that you trusted. Right now, you maybe could go about 6 or 7 that you trust. It's getting those 2 to 3 other guys that you can trust to be on the floor,
right,
and get this team that way when they go off and the second unit comes on, the play doesn't drop. And so we'll move on that's really our look at the front court or the back court. Front court's got a lot of questions too, and I think something that we haven't really thought a lot about, and it's because he's not thriving in the NBA, is Carolina lost Luke May. And you're losing a double-double.
Speak for yourself. I mean,
well, I'm just saying.
Trust me, I'm realizing that he's not there. And people will realize it very quickly that when he's gone.
The guys like Kobe and Cam and Nazir get the notoriety because they're first-round draft picks.
Right.
And Kobe is flourishing in the NBA already. But Luke May averaged a double-double last year. That's gone. You're missing double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, and I don't think we've really. I think Roy Williams had just said, we're gonna play 2 bigs, and then he came out 2 weeks ago and didn't seem as confident in going with that.
Yeah.
You worried that Carolina can't replace Luke May's production? Because if they're not, it's not gonna be a fun year.
I'm not as concerned about the inside scoring. I think that Bacot and Garrison can make that up. I'm concerned about the rebounding because Luke May he led the team in rebounding last year. There's no way around that. And Garrison, he's effective at times, Garrison is a smaller big. So it's not easy for them to just say, okay, well, we're going to roll out a freshman and expect him to take over as our leading rebounder. Now, Bacot's got the size to do it, but he's also a little bit of a smaller body. That was the thing about Luke May. He had such a big body that when he boxed you out, it was tough to get around him. So I'm going to be interested to see how you replace a guy like that. And, look, I'm going to go with the classic term that everybody likes to use about white basketball players. How are you going to replace the gym rat on the team? I mean, a guy that literally just worked for every single thing that he got. I'm not saying that Armando won't, but this is a 5-star guy. So the talent is supposed to be there, but it's a question of will it be there?
Yeah.
Especially right out of the gate. That's going to be tough. And against a Notre Dame team that they love to clean the glass, it's a little concerning, but we'll see. We'll see.
Bacot's the weird guy because, before you got Cole Anthony, he was a 5-star commit, been committed to Carolina for a long time. And he's kind of lost kind of the pressurized part of it now with Cole Anthony kind of filling in for Kobe White. A lot of pressure on him. This is a guy that is a prototypical Roy Williams big man.
Right.
Means he was going to run he can run the floor really well.
He's 7 foot, runs the floor, and can score inside.
Yeah.
While rebounding, but we just don't know if it's at that rate.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be something that he's, we talked about some kids growing up. He's going to have to grow up.
Him and Cole Anthony have to they have to grow up within the first couple of weeks. There's no time to say, okay, well, we're going to sit back. We can work you guys through some of these, non-conference games. No, these games that you're playing in non-conference are as hard, if not harder, than the conference schedule at certain points. So, yeah, I agree. It's crazy.
I think the biggest question about Carolina when you get inside isn't the scoring, isn't the rebounding. I think the rebounding will take care of itself because of the amount of emphasis put on the aspect of the game. They've got to be able to protect the rim. They haven't had a rim protector since Bryce Johnson left.
It is true.
We're now going on this being the 4th year since Bryce Johnson last did it for Carolina. Now, I know they won a national title without having a prototypical rim protector, but
Kennedy Meeks could do it at times.
He could do it, but you didn't trust.
But what I'm saying is, last year you couldn't protect inside really at all. If you had an effective big man, it was trouble for Carolina.
And it's been something that I know Auburn made a lot of threes. But when you don't have a viable rim protector, it changes how you want to play defensively on the perimeter.
Yeah, you're going to have to give up more shots on the outside to make sure that they're not getting to the lane as easy as some other teams have been. Yeah,
and so I guess that, if Carolina has a rim protector, is that because Bixter is still hurt? He's not ready to go, as we touched on in the last podcast we did.
Yeah, he's not even close, according to Roy. So, I mean, at this point, do we even talk about him? Because, they have to kind of prepare as if he's not going to be there. And I mean, that maybe that allows a guy that we haven't talked about a lot all offseason, maybe he becomes that guy. Am I the only one that feels like if you need a rim protector, Brandon Huffman might be your guy? The concern is when you put him on the floor, I think he's a more effective scorer, but does he not remind you kind of Desmond Huber, where if you put him on the floor, he's there to block shots and rebound, and he's not going to give you a ton on the offensive.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier if they said, okay, well, when we're on offense, we're going to keep Brandon Huffman down there, and you're going to keep it.
Just stand there, we'll go 4-on-5. You're fine.
Or just make the opponent play 4-on-4
when
you're on offense.
There you go.
I think I'd be a lot easier because it is when he's on the floor offensively, you can condense a lot more because he's not a threat. You're not going to run the ball. You're not going to run offense for him.
Not really.
You're not giving him the ball on the block and say, okay, go put a post and put the ball in the basket.
Maybe when the backup squads take the floor, you can run through them, but that's about it. Unfortunately.
I think there's a chance for him to break into the rotation, especially early on in the year.
Right.
It's just, what does Carolina do on the other end? Because as far as we know, he doesn't have a jump shot. And he doesn't have post moves. He gets his minutes because he busts his ass in practice and rebounds the ball and is going to get in the right position defensively. So that's the problem. That's why Bixter, since he got on campus, has been the biggest mystery since he got on. Because before he got hurt, because he was sort of coming out of high school, but came in healthy.
Right.
But ever since he got hurt, he hasn't been the same guy. And this is a guy that as a freshman I raved about. I thought was going to be the big man moving forward.
Yeah, you thought him
over Garrison.
Yeah,
he came off the bench and had a double-double
over Mr. Pickle
in a game. He's got the size. He's got the strength. He can step out and hit a jump shot like John Henson could way back in the early 2000s or 2010s. And so it just hasn't been there. And now he's a junior. And we're having the same questions we've had now for 3 years. It's just at the point now I've just gotten frustrated with it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. And I know what you're trying to say is that, look, you've gotten frustrated with the fact that we can't get him on the floor and allow him to progress because, and this seems legit because he came out of high school with a knee injury and now he has the knee injury. You almost wonder at this point if this is something that's probably going to end his basketball career, which is very unfortunate. Because, I was with you after his freshman season. I wasn't going to say I would take him over Garrison just because Garrison, you could tell, was a guy that was a hard worker. He just wasn't quite as polished. But with Sterling, that was the thing that was great about him. You had the length where you thought, okay, if this guy can develop, he is going to be hard to score on inside. And he's going to have the length where he can clean the glass pretty easily. And it just, he's not there right now, and that's really hurting. And I mean, that's my biggest concern with the front court is the depth. Once you get past Garrison and Bacot, if they get in foul trouble or need, a little time to breathe, who do you go to? You're going to have to play small. You got no choice. And that's where Leaky Black comes in.